Well, a really interesting moment took place this morning on Maria Bartiromo's show on Fox Business Mornings with Maria, and she brought on Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who, as I often note when we discuss her, is one of the most dishonest members of Congress, and that should be repeatedly called out as she attempts to consolidate more attention and notoriety around herself. But she appeared with Maria Bartiromo, and presumably they're both MAGA, I should say, and so they would get along, right? Well, something is said, as you're about to see, by Nancy Mace, that very much upsets Maria Bartiromo. We'll talk about why it does after playing the clip, and it causes a rather fed up Maria Bartiromo to shout at Nancy Mace during this interview. So quite a stunning less than 2-minute clip, as you're about to see.
Where are you on Mike Johnson? Do you?
Oh, and would you please, sorry, I'll play the rest of it uninterrupted after I say this. Please make sure you're subscribed to this channel. I brought this up in a past segment, but in the last month, our analytics show that we've received 30 million views on the channel, 19 million of which have been people who are not subscribed. So you should click subscribe. Huge difference it makes. Thank you so much. Okay, here's the clip from the beginning.
Where are you on Mike Johnson? Do you want to see change in terms of these CRs? Marjorie Taylor Greene says she's ready to take a motion to vacate the chair. Where are you on this issue, Congresswoman?
Oh, I don't support the motion to vacate the chair. In fact, the motion that was filed wasn't privileged, and so we're actually not even going to vote on it. And so, you know, Mike Johnson was dealt a bad hand. The former speaker, disgraced former speaker, set up a lot of bad deals, including that debt ceiling deal.
Congresswoman, Kevin McCarthy is not disgraced.
I consider him disgraced, absolutely.
Why?
Because he wouldn't tell the truth to the party, to the conference. He lied over and over again.
Come on,
he had a lot of bad deals, including the debt ceiling bill last year.
That he lied.
Absolutely.
But the bottom line on Ukraine funding, are you going to vote to send money to Ukraine? That's what Mike Johnson says he's going to bring to the floor.
Kevin McCarthy recruited a puppet to run against me in my Republican primary. You can go to puppetcatherine.com. He recruited somebody that can't win a general election in a purple district. Yes, he's a disgraced former speaker. When it comes to Ukraine funding, we'll be voting on supplemental aid, it sounds like, next week when we go back to D.C.
Don't you think you all should stick together in some ways? You are hanging on by a thread in the majority. When are you actually going to unite as a party and get things done?
Right, I agree, which is why Kevin McCarthy shouldn't go after fellow Republicans that can win in general elections in purple seats. You can go to nancymace.org and learn more about our campaign and chip in.
And you're
if you want to fight
Kevin
the establishment and fight D.C., fight somebody like Kevin McCarthy, who's coming after Republicans who can win in November.
Congresswoman, thank you. Good to see you, Nancy Mace. We appreciate your time.
Goodbye. We've had enough of you. So granted, Maria does always have a louder volume, but at the end there, she really had to raise her voice to defend Kevin McCarthy. Now, why is Nancy Mace so opposed to Kevin McCarthy? Well, she was one of the people who voted to oust him in the Republican Party. There were 8 of them. She was one of the 8. That was just a stunt for attention for her. And because of that, Kevin McCarthy now wants revenge. And so he is trying to defeat her in the Republican primary, which is hilarious to see. Maria Bartiromo would be perfectly fine. I think she probably is just fond of Kevin McCarthy. I'm sure they just have a perfectly fine relationship, and thus she doesn't want to be seen as not defending him when he's called out like that. But more importantly, she would abandon whatever friendship they might have or business relationship, whatever, for the sake of political gain, if it were politically advantageous for the Republican Party to be this much in disarray. But it's not. And I want to really stick with me for this. I want to really walk through the disaster that Maria Bartiromo is seeing play out here. And you add all these bricks and you get, for us, a lot of optimism. For someone like Maria Bartiromo, a terrifying situation that cannot afford more political deficits. So they can't have more political obstacles going into this election, given what I'm about to walk through. And we'll circle back to this subject at the end of it to explain why she's probably panicked about the Nancy Maces and Marjorie Taylor Greenes of the Congress and what they're doing to the party. So think about this upcoming election, what the stakes are, what the issues are going to be. Let's start with democracy. Donald Trump threatens democracy. I won't go through all the reasons that I deal on a daily basis, but he tried to block the peaceful transfer of power. He's called for termination of the Constitution. He's threatening to lock up his political opponents. He's wanting the government to go after media outlets he doesn't like, etc. He gets into office again. That could destroy democracy. And while Maria Bartiromo would refute that, she has to understand, and Republicans have to understand, the damage that's doing to their candidate in this election. January 6th being a scar that a lot of people still remember. Reproductive rights, my goodness, we're seeing the panic among Republicans on that one, realizing that this issue is going to hurt them so much. So yes, Biden's poll numbers are sometimes concerning, but guess what? This election is about so much, and people will get that as we go into it. And a lot of people aren't even paying attention yet to this election. That's hard to believe for avid political consumers, but a lot of the majority of the electorate's not even paying attention yet. And so as they engage, remember who Trump is, threat to democracy, reproductive rights, and they realize that those are the stakes of this election, they will vote, hopefully, the correct way. The economy just keeps getting better. There are still issues, but clearly the governance of Joe Biden is doing something right because it's contributing to these really good economic numbers that we've been getting. Unemployment lower for longer than we've seen in 50 years. Wages growing, adjusted for inflation. The stock market is breaking records. Job growth has been historic, etc. Crime is plummeting. I won't go through those statistics again because I've been spending a little bit too much time, according to some people in my audience, on the subject of crime, because it's driving me crazy that people are among the Republican Party running a campaign about crime spiking when it's plummeting under Joe Biden. And violent crime is currently lower than it was any time under Trump and near 50-year lows. The border, okay, this is an issue, right? Can't Republicans win on this one? Yes, the polls still show that Trump has an advantage on it for some reason, despite the irrationality of that reality. But Biden now can make the case correctly that, as we've talked previously, and I talked in an upcoming interview with Ro Khanna about this, Congressman Ro Khanna, about how the entire presidency of Joe Biden is a story of him trying to put forward solutions and Republicans shooting it down. The latest example being the bipartisan border deal that the Border Patrol Union endorsed and is very supportive of. And so if Biden can effectively, and his surrogates effectively, make the case that, hey, look, this piece of legislation that could address a bunch of the issues that Republicans are saying they care about and say justify these attacks against Joe Biden, they're the ones who shot it down because they want to make sure these problems are as bad as possible so Trump can run on them. So that's even falling apart. Then Maria Bartiromo's favorite used to be the Biden crime family. These allegations, James Comer has gone on her show about 2 billion times to accuse Biden of everything under the sun, and that is falling apart, rapidly crumbling. James Comer admitting in a couple different places that he's probably not even going to pursue impeachment and instead will do criminal referrals. Okay, that'll go nowhere. And so then take all of that. Maria Bartiromo gets that. She gets that as we get closer to the election, all of those factors are not going to be helpful to Trump and are going to be really helpful to Joe Biden. You throw in 4 indictments, you throw in Trump's a civilly liable rapist, and all these different things. And once people re-engage, and friend of the show, Dave Pakman, just did a really good interview with Rachel Bidikofer, who is a political scientist and was talking a lot about how we think everyone's paying attention. Almost nobody is until right before the election. And so as the months go on, people will engage, and the issues I just listed to you, that will be front of mind. And when it is, almost all of the elements of those issues benefit Joe Biden politically. And benefit, I should say, Democrats politically too. And so that gets us all the way back to why Maria Bartiromo is saying, shouldn't you be focused on uniting? Isn't this a little ridiculous? Is this really the time to be making enemies with Kevin McCarthy too, and potentially Mike Johnson? And the reason is you add on top of all of that, in an election year, another speaker being ousted, or Nancy Mace going to war with Kevin McCarthy, moderates, MAGA, attacking each other politically, or MAGA going after each other, like MAGA Mike, now an enemy of MAGA Marjorie. As we covered yesterday, Marjorie Taylor Greene saying that she thinks the left has dirt on Mike, and that's why he's doing the bidding of the left, which really? I haven't noticed that, Marjorie. But she's really unhappy with him supporting aid to Ukraine and funding the Department of Justice. And so I think what you just saw, that outrage from Maria Bartiromo, is dread, because she's realizing this MAGA monster she's helped to create is going to be horrible electorally. And when Nancy Mace is prioritizing in this moment a clash and a battle with another fellow Republican, that's only going to hurt Republicans going into this election, because you want to unite in an election year, right? If you're going to defeat Joe Biden, you got to have a united front. But that's not what it's looking like. Nikki Haley, Republicans are saying, we're done with this guy. We don't like Trump. Many of them. Mike Pence doesn't want to endorse Trump. Now, within the GOP, there's all of this conflict, all of these debacles, and that's what they're focused on going into an election. That's a disaster. And that's why I think Maria Bartiromo was so upset by that, because otherwise, MAGA Maria Bartiromo would be fine saying, yeah, sure, disgraced former speaker, he's a rhino now, woohoo. But this is the crucial period of time now. And to use up this time again with this intra-Republican Party fighting is really harmful to the electoral prospects, which is just beautiful to see. You just love it. I'm eating it up. Keep it coming. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel.